So somebody earlier was asking if I could make a video on how I modify my bevels. So I have one extra number 2 bevel, and I'll show you how that's done. Alrighty, so not that it matters. I really like these John James needles. This is number 16, and that's what I'm going to be using. I find for myself that works great for the radius that I'd like to see for belts. About 9 to 10 ounce leather. Anyhow, I've got this this bevel here. It's already a round bottom bevel. I don't need to do this, but I want to show you that the process is all the same, right? The radius on this is larger, it's more contoured. I could use a larger piece of wire to follow that to sharpen this particular tool. But I want to show you that I can do this method because I got needles. I might not have a piece of wire gauge that diameter, but I've got plenty of stitching needles. And as long as I got a stitching needle, it's going to fit nice and tight into my channel. I find that this works for me. All right. I'm going to start with 800 grit. Now, if you don't already have an established bevel, this is going to take a little bit of work. Hold it at 45 degrees, the degrees that you are going, or the angle that you're going to cut with your bevel on your leather piece. Okay. Put that needle on the sandpaper and just work it. Work it back in one direction, just like this. Maintaining that 45 degrees. Maintaining that same angle. Okay. Consistency is key. Consistency is key with stitching. Consistency is key with lace work, with almost anything you do in leather work. Just consistently swipe back at that angle. The same angle that you're already comfortable with beveling with your beveler. And there you go. And over time, you will develop your bevel, your edge. See that inner cutting edge there? Okay. Over time, you'll see that. Now, you don't need to go too crazy with it. You just need to establish that 45-degree angle cutting edge all the way from the back of here to where it comes flush on the inside. Okay? All right. So I've done 800 grit. Now I'm going to work this up 1500 grit. I'll keep working it. And then I'll work it up to 2000 grit. And 2000 will be getting pretty close to a polished edge, right? And that is going to be the final grit that I'll use before taking this tool to the buffing wheel. There's going to be lots of people who are going to say that I am wasting a good tool, that I'm trying to get you guys to ruin your good tools and all of that. It's just absolute nonsense. If you don't have a tool, you do not need to go out and buy an expensive tool. I've got a bunch of these cheapos laying around that I've picked up over the years, and I don't have one expensive beveler in my shop, but I'm able to produce really good rounded edges. And the reason being is because I modify my tools. If I need a tool, I make a tool. I can't always afford a tool, or I don't have the time. I got to finish this project for my customer right now, and I need to get a good result on it. All right, I'm going to figure out how to make this tool work, and we're going to get it done. You know, by no means do you have to do this. I'm just showing you ways that you can do it without spending a ton of money on nice tools. Now, I love nice tools. Don't get me wrong. I've got a shop full of beautiful tools here. I don't have a shop full of beautiful bevels, but I still get good bevels. I've got a great Barry King mallet. You know, I've got all sorts of great hand tools and things that I'd rather have than something simple like a bevel. I'd rather not spend 60 to 100 bucks on a fancy bevel when I can get a good result with these old ones that I have lying around. Anyhow, so you're going to work this up okay, up to 2000 grit. And then we'll go inside of the forge. For those of you that know me, you know that I have a forge. I'm a knife maker, and I make my own tools. And I have a nice little shop. So I'm going to go in there, and we're going to hit this on the buffing wheel after I work it up to 2000 grit. And I'll take you to that next step. Alrighty. All right, now I'm going to work that final bit there on the 2000 grit. At this point, 2000 grit starts to polish that edge. So the reason I chose 2000 grit is because once I take this to my polishing wheel, there will be very little work for the polisher to have to do. I can just kind of run it in real quick and move on with my life, because I've got projects to do and I don't need to spend all day working on a tool. I just want to get it functional. So 2000 grit, starting to polish that edge, and I'm liking what I see. It doesn't take an awful lot of strops unless your tool's real messed up, and even then, if you start at 800 grit and you work your way up, once you get to the final grits, I mean, you're pretty much there. You're just moving the tiniest little burr and polishing just a little bit. Anyhow, I like where this is. Let me see if I can get you in on that. So there again, I held it at a 45-degree angle, the same angle that I would work my bevel when I'm working on a belt or any other piece that I'm using this for. All right. Okay, so I'm going to take this to the grinder. I'll take you out to my forge. Those of you that know me know that I'm also a blacksmith. Mostly I make knives, and I do make some tools of my own. So anyhow, I got a functional little forge out there. We'll step into the forge, and I will show you my buffing wheel setup and how to buff this real quick. Okay. Alrighty guys, so this is my little forge here. Mind the mess, it's always a mess back here. It functions as my other tool shop as well, woodworking tools, machines, all that, and it's cramped. Anyhow, this is my buffing wheel. It is a, I'll take you over here. It's a Balder. It's a professional knife makers and machinists buffing wheel. I came across it, you know, for a good deal, but you don't need anything quite like this. A small benchtop grinder from Harbor Freight with a buffing wheel on it, it'll get you there. Now, I really like, and I'm not sponsored by anybody. I don't care for any of that. Maverick tools. I think I got this. Maybe I got this at Comrade Abrasives. I can't remember, but it's Maverick. It's a buffing compound. Their purple compound is excellent for a high mirror polish on carbon steels, non-ferrous metals, anything like that. And it's their purple, not their pink. But anyhow, fairly affordable, and this will last you a lifetime. Alrighty, so I'm gonna turn on my buffer. There she goes. Take my tool, and I'm just working. I'm working all that metal. I'm working all that steel. I want a nice shiny tool all the way around. Any edge refinement I can do back in my shop. Right now, I'm making all my surfaces as mirror polished as I can. And there again, if you hit it with 2000 grit, this doesn't, I'm probably doing overkill right now. I probably don't even need to go this long. You know, we're mirror. We're there. I like nice soft edges. I don't like any sharp edges on my tools. Some mornings, if I'm shaky and haven't had my coffee, I might jab into something and ruin a piece that I've been spending a day on or whatnot. And I don't see any need for sharp edges. There again, anything that, you know, any machine that you can put a buffing wheel on, I would recommend getting something with a buffing wheel, because this saves you a lot of time hand stropping, and you can't quite get every nook and cranny like you could a buffing wheel. So get you a buffing wheel of some sort and get you a good jeweler's rouge or buffing compound to use on it. You'll be glad you did. Okay. You can't really see in my forge, but that is mirror polish. That is shiny. That is, and I concentrate on the cutting surface right in there. I got that very buried in that cloth. That is mirror. And it's going to knock a burr on the inside in there. Right? On the inside, I got a big old fatty burr I could probably shave my fingernails with, but that's okay because I'm going to hit that from the backside of my shop. I'll show you how we do that. Alrighty, we're in the shop. What I call a shop, it's more like a closet. Anyways, I've got this tool buffed. I've got it polished. It is gorgeous. It's right where I want it. I don't know if maybe I've spent about 10 minutes on it so far, right? And again, I am reforming a tool. I want to point out to any of you guys who feel like teasing apart anything I say, I really don't care. Number one. Number two, I don't need that second bevel. I didn't need to take this particular tool on a needle. It's already a bottom round bevel. I'm doing this strictly to show you that this is how you can modify your tools. This is a method. Don't be afraid to do it. Play around on less expensive tools. Don't take your fancy, nice high-end bevels that you paid $100 for. Just use it, you know, get some cheap Tandy bevels and play around till you're confident doing it on more expensive tools. All right. There again, I'm going to show you that this is going to bevel edges just fine. Anyhow, I got my strop, right? And I've shown in the comments, but I'm just going to show you how I do this. Anyhow, this has Jeweler's Rouge on it. It's a white compound. I've had this since I began leatherworking 15 years ago. This is real hard stuff. This isn't soft. You know, it's a hard, almost brick-like material, but enough of it rubs off onto my strop. And there it is. And I'm hitting this edge right here, and there's a reason I'm hitting that edge, and I'll explain it in a minute. Anyhow, Jeweler's Rouge. And this is the final polish, right? I'm hitting my flat, or, you know, parts that aren't going to cut just because I like a nice shiny surface. And this is going to take it even farther than my buffing wheel compound. Okay. Now, at 45 degrees on the edge here, I am running back and I am hitting my cutting surface right in there. And this is going to contour that cutting surface, and it is going to knock that bevel to the inside. Okay. There we are. That cutting surface is hard to see, but that is mirror. That is sharp, sharp. But I've knocked a burr into a spot that I can't quite reach right in there. You don't need any kind of special cutting tool to get in there whatsoever. Now, if you got a huge fat burr and you can't polish it out with compound, you can take your needle and knock it down with a little bit of 2000 grit sandpaper. As a matter of fact, I'll just show you that. Because why not? Okay. There you go. Okay. This needle fits on in there. Try to get a good angle here. Okay. This needle fits inside of there. Just barely. Maybe not. Maybe not with sandpaper on it. It doesn't. It's too tight. So that's okay. I'm going to step it down one needle size. My needles are John James needles. So, okay. The 16 didn't work. Let's try 17. I'm just going to take the cumbersome process to show you exactly what goes through my mind when I do this. Okay, I want it to be nice and tight. Let's try 17. 17 is still pretty tight. Maybe a 16 or maybe maybe an 18 will work. Maybe it won't, right? Oh, there you go. How about that? Okay, so I got a big burr in there, and I'm having a hard time buffing it out with the way I'm about to show you. So here's how you can aggressively take it down. Just a few swipes. Don't get too crazy with this. Get it in there and swipe it down. And you're going to work that until you knock that burr down. And I don't have a burr in here because I maintain my tools pretty well, but I'm showing you how you can get in there and do it, okay? It does not take much. Okay, now that I have knocked the burr down and it's ready to knock a more micro burr down, I'm taking a chunk of leather that is similar gauge. It's gonna fit in this channel nicely, okay? And now I'm gonna load it up with some compound and I'm gonna run it in there. And this is a gentle process. You don't need a lot of pressure. At this point, you have a microscopic burr and you are polishing that puppy down. For those of you who don't know how to sharpen a knife or a tool, always go in the same direction, okay? Always go in the same direction. On the bottom, I was pulling, I wasn't pushing. And in here, I always push. So get that in there. And it just feels like you're just rubbing leather against steel and it's not doing anything, but that polishing compound is definitely doing something. You can tell because the edge is going to turn black. That is turning black. That is pieces of steel that are coming off of that edge. Very small pieces of carbon steel. Alrighty. Well, I ought to say this, right? Okay. This is the proper way to sharpen something. 4 to 5 degrees. That's how I'm cutting. 1, 2, 3. Great. 1, 2, 3. Just like with stitching, everything is dependent on consistency. The same pressure I put here, I'm going to attempt to emulate here with the same pressure, right? And the same number of swipes. You're pushing that that burr right to the edge of your blade, and that's what's actually cutting. It's a slight serration, a slight burr right on the edge that is microscopic, and you're trying to get it centered with your cutting edge. And that's what's actually doing your cutting. Okay, now I'm gonna take a piece of veg tan here. This is a belt thickness, I don't know, 9 or 10 ounce. Anyhow, let's test and see if I've completely destroyed my tool or if I have something that's gonna give me a nice round edge without having to do a lot of sanding, if any sanding at all. Okay. Wow, that's cutting like butter. It's beautiful. And that's beautiful. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. It's not quite met up in the middle, but that's gonna burnish really well. Let me see if I can get it in focus. Okay, there's a slight edge there, and I can alter that with my tools and more sanding, right? But this is only a number 2. Maybe this will get me on, say, a 6, 7 ounce leather. Maybe this will get me a perfectly round edge, right? If I had a different size bevel, one more appropriate for what I want to work on with this thicker gauge, then I'd be there. But let's just, for the fun of it, let's see how this how this burnishes. Let's see if I need to do any sanding whatsoever on this. Right? Sanding is a lot of wasted time. You don't do it if you don't need to. There is a time and place for everything. I sprayed that down with water. This is vegetable tan leather. I might even just go ahead and hit this with a little black dye, because black dye will kind of, once it's burnished, it'll reflect in the light and you'll be able to see my burnished edge a little better. I don't use anything fancy for black dye. The burnishing's going to darken it up real good, so I use a real basic dye that you get on Tandy. It's a real watery dye. There again, once I burnish, that thing's going to be just a shiny black mess. Alrighty, here we go. I'll use a slicker. Proper way to use a slicker is to go directional, right? So you're pulling, lift, pull, lift, pull, lift, because you're laying those fibers in one direction. I don't focus on little stuff like that as much, but that is the proper way to do it. Okay. Anyhow, let's take a look. Let's see. right? I haven't even hit it with canvas yet. That is a perfectly round, and there was zero sanding that needed to be done. Let's go ahead and hit it with canvas, because I know inevitably there's going to be some people in this comment section. Oh, you ruined your tool. That's improper. That's not a professional job. I've been doing this long enough to know what looks clean and what's going to save me time. When I'm trying to make a project and I got to spend an extra 15 or so minutes or whatever it is sanding and then beveling it, or sanding and then burnishing it again, laying down some edge finish like Tokenol, burnishing, sanding again, that takes up a lot of time. And I can't sell belts all day long for $250 or $300, but I could sell a hell of a lot of belts for $100 in my area. Okay, so I've created a tool, okay, that is going to give me perfect round bevels with zero sanding necessary. Okay. Zero sanding necessary. Let me see. Accidentally hit the off button there. Let's see if I can get in close for that. There we go. Okay. You saw how little work I put into that right there. Right. That's a good round bevel. It's clean. I can take this further. I can take some black Tokenol onto the edge or clear Tokenol or whatever and hit it again. Depends on how much my client's paying for the product, what he wants to afford. But because I've saved all this time not sanding, I can hit this with some Tokenol or Resolene or whatnot and then burnish it in and get just a mirror polish, right? My customer can afford me to take this up a notch further with my burnish because I'm not sitting here for 15 minutes sanding, reburnishing, rinse and repeat. I modified a tool and I got the job done very quickly, right? Different bevel sizes, different needle sizes, wire size, whatever you're going to use as a gauge between the sandpaper, right? This is a number 2 and it works great for my belts. I modify my number 2s like this. I've got a bunch of old cheap bevels I've picked up over the years, and each one is modified for certain types of projects, certain weights of leather. And I haven't bought any real expensive dedicated edgers or bevelers because I've got a bunch of cheap ones that I modified to do exactly what I need, and I can spend my money on other nice tools like an embossing machine, like a good whatever the hell this thing is, right? I spend my money on a nice knife for cutting my leather. I don't need to. I can get these for, well, you used to get little cheap bevels for $15 on Tandy, and you can modify it. You don't need to go and buy expensive bevels. I've been using this right here for a long time, and I've produced some good product with it. And there's other tools in my shop that I'd like to spend the money on, get myself a Barry King mallet, stuff like that. Anyhow, I hope this was useful to you. Anyhow, guys, there's going to be plenty of people in the comments who are going to say, oh, you've ruined a good tool, or they make a tool for that, you're just wasting time. I don't care. This is what I do. It works great. I produce great work. I've been doing this for about 15 years, and this works for me. And I'm not here to try to destroy anyone's tools or teach them the right way. Everyone's got their own way. It's leatherwork. I'm 100% self-taught. I taught myself. My mother got me a little Tandy starter kit as a going away present when she died from cancer when I was a teenager. And she sat me down with an old leatherworker who taught me how to tool a belt for a day. And after that, I loved it, and I taught myself ever since. I've never paid for a course. When I was really at it, back in 2014, in that time, you couldn't even really find YouTube videos that would teach you stuff like this. A lot of this was gate kept. A lot of these old tricks, you know, the tricks on how to really produce nice stuff was kept in an ivory tower, and you know, and that is what it is. Or they make you pay for it, right? Um, but but now with everything being so accessible online, I figured, hell, I'm gonna show you, you know, show you how to do some of the little things. But hopefully this is helpful for you, and hopefully you can utilize this to get some results that you want without having to go and buy $100 beveler or $50 beveler or whatever. You're thinking that you need to buy that in order to get perfectly round edges when all you have are straight cutting bevelers, you know, but you're trying to get round bevels. You can completely modify this tool, and this is just one of many tools you can modify. So don't be afraid to experiment, right? Experiment on cheap tools. Get the feel right. You're going to have a learning curve with sharpening edges. I'm a knife maker. Sharpening edges is fairly natural to me. I'm a leather worker who has a hobby of making knives, right? So anyhow, hope that's useful, and get out there and make some projects. Bye.